The document trembled in Elena Rodriguez's hands, a relic that held the weight of humanity's most audacious secret. Project Librarian wasn't just a contingency plan. It was a generational promise, a commitment forged in the crucible of human survival. She traced the faded letterhead, recognizing the signatures of scientists who had dedicated their lives to a plan so complex, so revolutionary, that it had remained hidden for decades. The project's origins dated back to the height of the Cold War, born from a terrifying realization. Humanity's true strength wasn't in its weapons, but in its ability to collect, preserve, and weaponize knowledge. Outside the library's secure archive, the world continued its mundane dance. Tourists snapped photos of the iconic lions guarding the library's entrance. Commuters rushed past, their minds filled with daily concerns, completely unaware of the global defense system hidden in plain sight. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display that emerged from what appeared to be an ordinary bookshelf. Quantum processors embedded in centuries-old manuscripts began to pulse with a soft, almost imperceptible light. Each book was more than paper and ink. It was a node in a planetary defense network that defied comprehension. The first architects of Project Librarian understood something profound. In an age of technological arms races, humanity's most powerful weapon was its collective knowledge. Libraries weren't just repositories of information. They were living, breathing systems of collective intelligence. A secure communication channel flickered to life. Dr. Mahmoud Hassan from the Cairo National Library appeared, his weathered face a map of decades of preparation. "They're coming," he said simply. No further explanation was needed. Across the world, similar scenes were unfolding. In Tokyo, Akiko Tanaka adjusted quantum sensors hidden within digital archives. In the Vatican, archivists activated preservation protocols that were anything but ordinary. Each library was a fortress, each book a potential weapon. The Tsarn had been watching Earth for generations, believing they understood humanity. Their advanced reconnaissance had mapped every continent, every city, every significant structure. They saw libraries as quaint human institutions, museums of decaying paper and obsolete information. They were catastrophically wrong. Elena's fingers danced across the holographic interface. Decades of preparation were about to be tested. Project Librarian was more than a defensive strategy. It was humanity's ultimate insurance policy. Deep beneath the New York Public Library, Cold War-era quantum processors hummed to life. These weren't simple computers. They were adaptive intelligence matrices that had been continuously upgraded, hidden within the most unexpected places. A children's picture book could contain more computational power than an entire alien spacecraft. The project's true genius lay in its distribution. No single library was the key. It was the network, a global web of knowledge that could communicate, adapt, and defend faster than any technological system known to alien intelligence. Sarah Martinez, a teenage intern in a small Kansas library, represented the project's most brilliant innovation. Her generation had been quietly trained, prepared for this moment. What appeared to be standard library science courses were actually advanced tactical training programs. The first Tsarn ships would arrive within hours. Elena Rodriguez looked up at the massive reading room, now subtly reshaping itself. Bookshelves stood ready to transform. Card catalogs waited to become targeting systems. The very architecture of the building was a weapon. Project Librarian was more than a defense plan. It was a statement. Humanity would not be conquered. Knowledge would not be subjugated. The libraries were waiting. The invasion was about to begin. And humanity was ready. The first Tsarn dropships cut through Earth's atmosphere like obsidian blades, their quantum-enhanced hulls gleaming with technology centuries beyond human understanding. Captain Krelax, veteran of 100 planetary conquests, watched the approach with clinical detachment. Earth was supposed to be another simple acquisition, a primitive world ripe for harvesting. He never saw the libraries coming. In New York, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood perfectly still, her hand hovering over a seemingly ordinary book. Around her, the library's internal structure began to shift, molecular-level transformations happening beneath the surface of what appeared to be a traditional reading room. The first wave of Zarn troops approached with plasma cannons charged and biomechanical exoskeletons humming with destructive potential. Advanced sensors swept the cityscape, expecting minimal resistance. Their tactical systems predicted a swift, decisive victory. They were wrong. At the British Library in London, Dr. James Holloway activated the first defensive sequence. What looked like a collection of ancient manuscripts suddenly projected quantum interference fields that rendered Zarn weapon systems into nothing more than expensive paperweights. Centuries of human history, James muttered, are about to become their worst nightmare. In Cairo, Dr. Mahmoud Hassan's manuscript collection transformed. Centuries-old papyrus and parchment contained microscopic quantum processors that generated localized electromagnetic pulses. Zarn dropships found their most advanced technologies becoming useless, falling from the sky like wounded birds. Akiko Tanaka in Tokyo discovered that the library's digital archives were more than just stored information. They were a living, breathing communication network that could predict and counter alien movement patterns with impossible accuracy. Sarah Martinez, the teenage library intern from Kansas, became an unexpected tactical coordinator. Her holographic displays showed alien approach vectors, her fingers dancing across interfaces that merged historical knowledge with real-time defensive strategies. The Zarn troops advanced, confident in their technological superiority. Their first ground units approached the New York Public Library, plasma weapons charged and ready. Elena Rodriguez smiled. The library's marble floor began to shift. Bookshelves unfolded into defensive positions. What had moments ago been a quiet reading room became a battlefield that defied alien comprehension. Quantum-encoded information became physical defensive mechanisms. Books transformed into adaptive armor plating. Card catalogs deployed swarms of nanodrones capable of molecular-level deconstruction. Captain Krulax watched in mounting horror as his invasion force began to disintegrate. Their communication systems failed. Their weapon technologies became useless. The humans were fighting back in a way no species had ever encountered before. "Welcome to Earth," Elena whispered as the first wave of defense activated. In the Vatican archives, an ancient text revealed encryption methods that completely neutralize Zarn communication systems. Centuries-old manuscripts contained computational matrices that the aliens' most advanced decryption technologies couldn't penetrate. The Zarn had studied humanity for generations. They had mapped every continent, analyzed every technological system, calculated every potential resistance strategy. But they had never understood humanity's true strength, the ability to preserve, share, and weaponize knowledge. Each library became a fortress. Each book a potential weapon, each archived document a strategic asset. Sarah Martinez tracked alien movement patterns with an intuition that defied technological explanation. She wasn't just reading data, she was understanding the story the data was telling. Each movement, each tactical decision became a narrative that she could predict, interpret, and counter. Quantum processors embedded in manuscripts, hidden in the bindings of ancient texts, scattered throughout digital archives, began to work in perfect, terrifying synchronization. The libraries were no longer just storing human knowledge. They were weaponizing it. Captain Krulax realized, far too late, that they were fighting something entirely beyond their comprehension. What appeared to be a decentralized network of information centers was actually a planet-wide defensive grid of unprecedented complexity. The invasion had begun, and humanity's libraries were fighting back. This, Elena Rodriguez said to herself, watching the first alien dropships fall from the sky, is why you never underestimate a species that values knowledge. The transformation defied every known law of physics and technological understanding. Libraries across the globe revealed themselves as living, breathing defensive systems with capabilities that would make the most advanced alien intelligence weep with confusion. At the Library of Congress, Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the epicenter of a technological marvel that represented humanity's most audacious secret. Project Librarian had transformed what appeared to be a simple archival building into an organism of pure defensive potential. Rows of books began to reconfigure, their molecular structures shifting with a precision that suggested something far beyond mere mechanical transformation. Historical documents became quantum communication grids. Ancient manuscripts generated localized force fields that could neutralize entire alien technological systems in milliseconds. "It's not just about storing information," Marcus muttered, watching as a rare collection of 18th century maps transformed into a sophisticated defensive matrix. "It's about protecting human potential." In Mumbai, a children's library became a nightmare of adaptive technology that would haunt the Tsarn invasion forces for generations to come. Picture books containing quantum processors generated force fields that could reshape themselves faster than alien targeting systems could adapt. Young adult fiction sections deployed swarms of nanodrones capable of molecular-level deconstruction. Sarah Martinez, the teenage library intern from Kansas, discovered the true depth of her training. Her understanding of local history, genealogical records, town archives, seemingly mundane historical documents, became a crucial tactical asset that could predict alien movement patterns with terrifying accuracy. Dr. Elena Rodriguez coordinated from New York, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces hidden behind what appeared to be ordinary library displays. Each library was a node in a global network, sharing tactical information faster than the Tsarn could process. Historical battle strategies, scientific theories, even fictional narratives became real-time defensive protocols. In the Vatican archives, an ancient text revealed secrets that would shatter the Tsarn's understanding of human potential. Centuries-old manuscripts contained computational matrices so complex that the aliens' most advanced decryption technologies couldn't even begin to comprehend their complexity. Akiko Tanaka in Tokyo watched in quiet amazement as digital archives transformed entire city blocks into adaptive defensive zones. Historical records became force field generators. Academic papers turned into molecular reconfiguration systems that could neutralize alien technology at its most fundamental level. Dr. Mahmoud Hassan in Cairo discovered something even more profound. The libraries weren't just defending, they were learning. Each interaction with the alien invasion force became a data point, a new piece of information to be analyzed, understood, and weaponized. The Tsarn ground troops found themselves facing an enemy that rewrote the very concept of warfare. In Sao Paulo, a collection of local folklore became a quantum encryption network. A small library in rural India could generate defensive protocols that neutralized entire alien squadron tactics. "We've been preparing for this moment our entire history," Dr. Rodriguez broadcast across the global library network. Her voice carried the weight of generations of preparation. Every book, every document, every piece of recorded knowledge was a weapon waiting to be deployed. Quantum processors embedded in the most unexpected places began to work in perfect, terrifying synchronization. A cookbook could contain defensive subroutines. A collection of children's drawings might hold the key to neutralizing an alien weapon system. The Tsarn command structure began to fragment. Their invasion strategy, developed through generations of observation, collapsed within hours. They had studied humanity's technological capabilities, measured their military potential, calculated their potential resistance. But they had never understood humanity's true strength. Sarah Martinez watched holographic displays that showed the global library defense network. She realized that they were doing more than just defending. They were telling a story of human potential, of knowledge as the ultimate weapon, of a species that refused to be conquered. Dr. Chen looked up at the transformed Library of Congress, its very architecture now a weapon of unprecedented complexity. "This," he said to himself, "is why you never underestimate a species that values knowledge more than anything else." The libraries were no longer passive repositories of information. They were alive. They were fighting. And they were winning. The Tsarn discovered, with growing horror, that they were fighting an intelligence beyond their most advanced computational systems. What appeared to be a decentralized network of information centers was actually a planet-wide defensive grid of unprecedented complexity and adaptability. Captain Krelak stared at the tactical displays, watching his invasion force disintegrate in real time. The human libraries were more than defensive systems. They were a living, breathing collective intelligence that seemed to anticipate every strategic move before it could be implemented. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the nexus of this global network, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seamlessly integrated historical archives with real-time defensive strategies. The communication network was something the Zarn could never have anticipated, a truly collective intelligence that drew strength from humanity's most fundamental characteristic: the ability to learn, adapt, and share knowledge. In a small library in rural Kansas, 17-year-old Sarah Martinez became the unexpected conductor of a global defensive symphony. Her intimate knowledge of local history, genealogical records, town archives, seemingly mundane historical documents, transformed into a sophisticated predictive algorithm that could track and counter alien movement patterns with impossible accuracy. Information is alive, Sarah whispered to herself, watching multiple holographic displays showing the global library defense network. It breathes, it adapts, it fights. The collective intelligence worked on principles that defied the Zarn's technological understanding. A meteorological record from a small Australian library became a weapon of unprecedented complexity. A collection of children's drawings in Sao Paulo generated quantum interference fields that could disable entire alien squadrons. An obscure academic paper from a Russian university contained molecular reconfiguration algorithms capable of neutralizing advanced alien technologies at their most fundamental level. Dr. Mahmoud Hassan in Cairo discovered the true depth of their preparation. Project Librarian wasn't just a defensive strategy. It was a complete reimagining of human potential. Libraries had been preparing for this moment for generations, embedding quantum processors in the most unexpected places. Akiko Tanaka in Tokyo realized that the libraries were more than just defensive systems. They were a planetary immune response, a collective intelligence that had been preparing for this moment since humanity first began recording its history. Each archive communicated instantaneously, sharing tactical information, predicting alien movements, adapting faster than the invaders could comprehend. "We are not just protecting information," Akiko said into her quantum communication device, her voice linking libraries across continents. "We are the information." The Zarn command structure began to fragment. Their invasion strategy, developed through generations of observation, collapsed within minutes. They had studied humanity's technological capabilities, measured their military potential, calculated their potential resistance, but they had never understood humanity's true strength. In the Vatican archives, an ancient manuscript revealed a quantum encryption method that completely neutralized Zarn communication systems. Centuries-old texts contained computational matrices that the aliens' most advanced decryption technologies couldn't penetrate. What seemed like religious documents were actually complex defensive algorithms waiting decades to be activated. Sarah Martinez tracked alien movement patterns with an intuition that defied technological explanation. She wasn't just reading data, she was understanding the story the data was telling. Each movement, each tactical decision became a narrative that she could predict, interpret, and counter. Dr. Rodriguez looked up at the massive reading room, now a command center of unprecedented complexity. The books around her seemed to pulse with an intelligence of their own. Decades of preparation, of carefully hidden technological innovation, of understanding that knowledge was the ultimate weapon. The library's collective intelligence was more than a defensive system. It was a living organism, drawing strength from every piece of information ever recorded. Historical battles, scientific discoveries, personal narratives, all became part of a global defensive network that could think, adapt, and fight with a speed and complexity that the Zarn could never comprehend. "They thought libraries were just buildings," Dr. Rodriguez murmured, watching another wave of alien technology fall before the collective intelligence. They never understood that knowledge is the most powerful weapon in the universe. Captain Krulax watched in mounting desperation as his invasion force continued to disintegrate. The human libraries were doing something impossible. They were fighting. They were learning. They were winning. And they were just getting started. The Zarn invasion forces experienced true terror for the first time in their species' evolutionary history. What they had considered a simple planetary conquest had transformed into a nightmare of adaptive intelligence that defied every known technological principle. Captain Krulax watched in mounting horror as his most advanced systems became progressively useless. Libraries were no longer static institutions. They were living, breathing defensive systems that could learn, adapt, and counter alien technologies faster than the invaders could comprehend. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the epicenter of this unprecedented adaptive response. Each library was now a node in a global network of impossible intelligence, transforming every piece of recorded human knowledge into a weapon more sophisticated than any alien technology. In Mumbai, a small community library became a focal point of adaptive terror. What appeared to be a children's section suddenly generated quantum interference fields that could reshape themselves faster than alien targeting systems could track. Picture books contained quantum processors that predicted and neutralized alien technological approaches with terrifying precision. Sarah Martinez, the teenage library intern from Kansas, discovered the true depth of the adaptive intelligence. Her holographic displays showed not just defensive strategies, but predictive models that could anticipate alien technological evolution in real time. Historical records, scientific theories, even fictional narratives became active defensive protocols that morphed and changed with each alien attempt to counteract them. Dr. Mahmoud Hassan in Cairo watched as ancient manuscripts transformed into computational matrices more complex than anything the Zarn had ever encountered. A collection of local folklore became a quantum encryption network that could neutralize entire alien communication systems in milliseconds. Akiko Tanaka in Tokyo realized that the libraries were doing more than defending. They were learning. Every interaction with the alien invasion force became a data point, a new piece of information to be analyzed, understood, and weaponized. We are not just protecting information. Akiko broadcast across the global library network. We are evolving with it. The Zarn discovered that each attempted invasion strategy was immediately countered, not just defensively, but with a level of adaptive intelligence that seemed to anticipate their thoughts before they could form them. A meteorological record from a small Australian library could generate defensive protocols that rendered entire alien squadrons inert. An obscure academic paper from a Russian university contained molecular reconfiguration algorithms that could completely disassemble alien technology at its most fundamental level. In the Vatican archives, an ancient text revealed quantum encryption methods that completely shattered the Zarn's most advanced communication technologies. Centuries-old manuscripts contained computational matrices so complex that the aliens' decryption systems couldn't even begin to comprehend their structure. Sarah Martinez tracked alien movement patterns with an intuition that defied technological explanation. She wasn't just reading data. She was understanding the story the data was telling. Each alien movement became a narrative that she could predict, interpret, and counter with impossible precision. The libraries were transforming. Historical documents became force field generators. Academic papers turned into molecular reconfiguration systems. Every piece of recorded human knowledge became an active defensive mechanism that could adapt, learn, and fight. Captain Krulax realized, far too late, that they were facing something entirely beyond their comprehension. The human libraries were more than a defensive network. They were a living, breathing organism of collective intelligence that drew strength from every piece of information ever recorded. Dr. Rodriguez watched as another wave of alien technology fell before the adaptive intelligence of human knowledge. They thought libraries were just buildings, she murmured. They never understood that knowledge is the most powerful weapon in the universe. The Zarn command structure began to fragment. Their invasion strategy, developed through generations of observation, collapsed within moments. They had studied humanity's technological capabilities, measured their military potential, calculated their potential resistance. But they had never understood humanity's true strength. In a small library in Sao Paulo, a collection of children's drawings generated quantum interference fields that could disable entire alien squadrons. A cookbook in Cairo contained defensive subroutines more complex than the Tsar's most advanced weapon systems. The adaptive nightmare continued. The libraries were alive. They were learning. And they were winning. The invasion became a desperate retreat. Humanity's libraries were no longer passive repositories of information, but active, intelligent defense systems that rewrote the very concept of warfare. Military strategists around the world watched in awe as archivists became the frontline defenders of the planet. Captain Krelax of the Tsar invasion force found himself facing a tactical nightmare beyond any simulation in their species' history. The human libraries had transformed from simple knowledge centers into a planetary defense network that defied every known principle of technological warfare. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the Global Command Center, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that merged historical archives with real-time defensive strategies. The libraries were more than a defensive system. They were a living, breathing planetary immune response that had been preparing for this moment since humanity first began recording its history. In the British Library, Dr. James Holloway discovered the ultimate failsafe. Generations of military historians had been preparing a defense that went beyond conventional understanding. Historical documents weren't just records. They were computational matrices capable of predicting and countering alien strategies with terrifying precision. Sarah Martinez, the teenage library intern from Kansas, became a crucial tactical coordinator. Her deep understanding of local history, combined with the global library network, allowed her to predict alien movement patterns with an accuracy that defied technological explanation. "We've been writing this story for generations," Sarah whispered, watching holographic displays that showed the global library defense network. Each movement of the alien forces became a narrative she could interpret, predict, and counter. The Tsar found themselves fighting an enemy that could anticipate their every move. A small library in rural India could generate defensive protocols that neutralized entire alien squadron tactics. A collection of children's science fiction in a San Francisco archive contained quantum encryption methods that made Tsar communication systems completely useless. Dr. Mahmoud Hassan in Cairo laughed as entire alien squadrons found their most advanced technologies becoming nothing more than expensive paperweights. "You thought we were just keeping old papers," he said to the retreating alien forces. "We were building something far more important." Akiko Tanaka in Tokyo watched as digital archives transformed entire city blocks into adaptive defensive zones. Historical records became force field generators. Academic papers turned into molecular reconfiguration systems that could neutralize alien technology at its most fundamental level. The Tsar command structure began to completely disintegrate. Their invasion strategy, developed through generations of observation, collapsed within hours. They had studied humanity's technological capabilities, measured their military potential, calculated their potential resistance. But they had never understood humanity's true strength. In the Vatican archives, an ancient text revealed a quantum encryption method that completely neutralized Tsar communication systems. Centuries-old manuscripts contained computational matrices that the aliens' most advanced decryption technologies couldn't penetrate. The libraries were fighting back, and they were winning. Dr. Rodriguez broadcast across the global library network, her voice a testament to generations of preparation. Every book, every document, every piece of recorded knowledge was a weapon waiting to be deployed. Quantum processors embedded in the most unexpected places began to work in perfect, terrifying synchronization. A cookbook could contain defensive subroutines. A collection of local folklore might hold the key to neutralizing an alien weapon system. Captain Krelax watched in mounting desperation as his invasion force continued to disintegrate. The human libraries were doing something impossible. They were fighting. They were learning. They were winning. In a small library in Sao Paulo, a collection of children's drawings generated quantum interference fields that could disable entire alien squadrons. A meteorological record from a small Australian library became a weapon of unprecedented complexity. The turning tide was more than a military victory. It was a fundamental rewriting of what it meant to be a technological civilization. The libraries had proven that knowledge was the most powerful weapon in the universe. They thought libraries were just buildings, Dr. Rodriguez murmured, watching another wave of alien technology fall before the collective intelligence. They never understood that knowledge is alive. The invasion was becoming a retreat. Humanity's libraries were no longer just defending. They were winning. The transformation from defense to offense was as seamless as it was terrifying. Librarians and archivists worldwide launched a coordinated counteroffensive that redefined the concept of warfare. They didn't just defend, they pursued. Using the Tsar's own technology against them, they began to hunt down the invasion fleet. Dr. Elena Rodriguez coordinated the global counteroffensive from the transformed New York Public Library. What had once been a quiet institution of learning was now the command center of humanity's most sophisticated offensive strategy. Captain Krulax of the Tsarn invasion force found himself in a tactical nightmare beyond any conceivable scenario. The human libraries were no longer just defending. They were actively hunting, with a precision and intelligence that defied every known principle of technological warfare. Sarah Martinez, the teenage library intern from Kansas, had become the unexpected architect of the counterattack. Her holographic displays showed not just defensive strategies, but comprehensive offensive maneuvers that anticipated and dismantled Tsarn technological systems before they could even be deployed. "Every piece of information is a weapon," Sarah muttered, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces that merged historical records with real-time tactical analysis. Historical battle strategies, scientific theories, even fictional narratives became active offensive protocols. In Cairo, Dr. Mahmoud Hassan discovered how to turn the Tsar's communication technologies against themselves. Ancient manuscripts contained quantum encryption methods that not only neutralized alien communication, but could hijack and redirect their entire network infrastructure. Akiko Tanaka in Tokyo transformed digital archives into offensive weapon systems. Historical records became targeted quantum disruption generators. Academic papers turned into molecular deconstruction algorithms that could systematically dismantle alien technological infrastructure. The Tsarn Confederacy found itself outmaneuvered by an enemy they could neither understand nor combat. Humanity's greatest strength, its ability to preserve, share, and weaponize knowledge, became its most devastating offensive strategy. At the British Library, Dr. James Holloway revealed the ultimate offensive protocol. Generations of military historians had been preparing not just a defense, but a comprehensive counterattack strategy that used the Tsar's own technological principles against them. Quantum-encoded information transformed into precise offensive mechanisms. Books became adaptive infiltration systems. Card catalogs deployed swarms of nanodrones capable of molecular-level technological deconstruction. "We are not just protecting our planet," Dr. Rodriguez broadcast across the global library network. "We are teaching the universe a lesson." In the Vatican archives, an ancient text revealed offensive strategies that went beyond simple technological warfare. Quantum encryption methods could now not just neutralize but completely reprogram alien technological systems. Sarah Martinez tracked and predicted Tsarn fleet movements with an intuition that defied technological explanation. She wasn't just reading data, she was understanding the story the data was telling. Each alien movement became a narrative she could predict, interpret, and systematically dismantle. The libraries were no longer passive. They were alive, they were fighting, and they were winning. Captain Krulax watched in mounting horror as his invasion force was systematically dismantled. Libraries around the world were no longer just defending. They were actively hunting down Zarn technological infrastructure with a precision that suggested a level of intelligence far beyond anything the Zarn had ever encountered. A small library in rural India could generate offensive protocols that could infiltrate and destroy entire alien communication networks. A collection of children's science fiction in a San Francisco archive contained quantum infiltration methods that could systematically dismantle alien technological systems. The counterattack was more than a military operation. It was a fundamental rewriting of what it meant to be a technological civilization. The libraries had proven that knowledge was not just a defensive weapon, it was the most powerful offensive strategy in the universe. Dr. Rodriguez watched as another wave of Zarn technology fell before the comprehensive counterattack. They thought libraries were just buildings, she murmured. They never understood that knowledge is alive. Knowledge fights. Quantum processors embedded in the most unexpected places began to work in perfect, terrifying synchronization. A cookbook could contain infiltration algorithms. A collection of local folklore might hold the key to dismantling an alien technological infrastructure. The Zarn Confederacy's invasion was no longer just failing. It was being systematically destroyed. The libraries were no longer just defending. They were hunting. And they were winning. As the last Zarn ships fled the solar system, humanity stood transformed. The world would never be the same again. Libraries were no longer quiet institutions of learning but critical defensive and offensive systems that had redefined the very concept of technological warfare. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the transformed New York Public Library, now a gleaming testament to humanity's unprecedented potential. Holographic displays continued to track the retreating Zarn fleet, quantum processors embedded in ancient manuscripts, still humming with defensive capabilities. Sarah Martinez, the teenage library intern who had become a crucial tactical coordinator, looked out over the city. Her generation would be the first to understand the true power of knowledge. Libraries were no longer just about preserving information. They were living, breathing defensive systems that could protect an entire planet. "We've changed everything," Sarah whispered to Dr. Rodriguez, her fingers still dancing across quantum interfaces that merged historical archives with tactical analysis. A global initiative began, recognizing that knowledge was the ultimate technology. Governments, academic institutions, and libraries worldwide started a comprehensive program to understand and expand the capabilities they had discovered during the invasion. Dr. Mahmoud Hassan in Cairo led the first international conference on library-based defense technologies. Archivists, historians, quantum physicists, and military strategists came together to document and expand upon the defensive capabilities they had developed. "This is more than a technological breakthrough," Dr. Hassan explained to the assembled experts. "This is a fundamental reimagining of human potential." Akiko Tanaka in Tokyo began developing new educational programs. Libraries would no longer be passive repositories of information. They would be training grounds for a new generation of knowledge warriors, individuals who understood that information was the most powerful weapon in the universe. The Zarn Confederacy became a cautionary tale in the archives of human history. Their invasion had revealed humanity's true strength, a collective intelligence built on generations of preserving, sharing, and understanding knowledge. At the Vatican archives, researchers discovered that the quantum encryption methods and defensive technologies developed during the invasion were just the beginning. Ancient manuscripts contained hints of capabilities that had yet to be fully explored. Dr. Rodriguez oversaw the global library network, now transformed into a sophisticated planetary defense and research system. Every piece of information became a potential tool for understanding, defense, and advancement. "We are not just protecting our planet," she told a global audience. "We are teaching the universe what it means to be truly intelligent." Sarah Martinez continued her work, developing predictive models that could anticipate potential threats based on historical and archival information. Her ability to read and interpret data had become legendary, a testament to the power of human intuition combined with comprehensive knowledge. The world's libraries began to change, no longer quiet spaces of passive learning. They became dynamic centers of research, defense, and potential. Quantum processors were carefully integrated into archives worldwide. Every book, every document became a potential defensive asset. International laws were rewritten. Libraries were now considered critical infrastructure, protected with the same intensity as military installations. Archivists and librarians were recognized as crucial defenders of human potential. Dr. James Holloway from the British Library developed a new field of study, archival warfare. It combined historical research, quantum physics, and defensive strategy into a comprehensive approach to planetary protection. The technology developed during the Tsarn invasion began to solve other global challenges. Quantum encryption methods developed to counter alien communication systems found applications in medical research, climate science, and global communication networks. The Tsarn thought they were coming to conquer. Sarah Martinez told a group of young students. Instead, they taught us who we really are. The global library network continued to evolve. What had begun as a defensive system became a comprehensive platform for human advancement. Every piece of information became a potential tool for understanding, growth, and protection. Dr. Rodriguez looked out over the transformed New York Public Library, its walls now alive with quantum processors, its archives a testament to human potential. The universe had learned a critical lesson. Never underestimate a species that considers knowledge its most powerful weapon. The invasion was over. The libraries had won. And humanity's true journey was just beginning.